Welcome back everybody to more cheesing of Elden Ring. Today we're defeating Malenia, the Blade of MIQUELLA, because Blade of Malenia has a weakness which we're gonna exploit, which is that she has very low poise. She's also weak to frostbite and hemorrhage. Just pointing that out, and she's very strong versus scarlet rot and poison. But we're mostly gonna care about her poise. We're gonna stagger her constantly, and she's not gonna be able to do anything. By the way, there are a couple of other cheeses that I've seen online that can do versus this boss, but I found this to just be the easiest one. Oh yes, you can zip into a position above the door where you enter to Malenia, and then you can exit out of the game, and you can go back into the game, and then the AI is gonna be broken. You're gonna be inside the boss room, and you just kill her that way. The problem is it's so stressful to try to do the zip glitch. The zip glitch is difficult in by itself, and trying to do it in the boss room, impossible. This is what I recommend. Do this instead. Also, before we get into the boss fight, I just want to point some things out about this boss. I've already talked about the resistances, and that she's very low poise, of course. But also, she has some important breakpoints here. So first she's gonna have 2 health meters. When the first health meter reaches 0, you can actually do a cool thing where if you poise break her exactly when she reaches 0, and before she goes into her second phase, you finish her off with a critical, that's actually gonna kill her in her second phase. But that's also very difficult to get off, so we're not gonna do that. Another thing here. When she goes down below 75% HP, she unlocks her waterfowl dance attack. This is a very strong attack. The easiest way to just not have to deal with this is just running away. And the easiest way running away, because you're probably not going to be fast enough to run away from this attack, is to use Bloodhound Step. She does her thing, you take off the lock from her and just aim for a corner which is the furthest away from her, and just Bloodhound Step, Bloodhound Step, Bloodhound Step, Bloodhound Step away for that corner. That's the easiest way of dealing with that attack. Then when she gets into her second phase, she's also going to apply Scarlet Rot, and she's going to do a dive attack. I'm going to show you that when we get into the video. But if you want to have a talisman which is good against this, you can pick up the immunizing horn charm. You pick this up in the what's it called, Lake of Rot. There's like a minotaur walking around there, which is just a normal mob. I don't know, he's immune to Scarlet Rot. You kill him and you get the immunizing horn charm, which gives you a very high immunity. I think it gives you 120 immunity, but I don't think this is necessary for this fight. What I recommend more than picking up the immunizing horn charm is actually just leveling up your mimic and using that attack, because her, especially her waterfowl dance, can't really be tanked by anything, and it's mostly like one-shots most summons. So I think the mimic is the only thing that's gonna stand a chance at actually surviving her waterfowl dance and being able to get into her phase 2. So my recommendation there is the mimic. Now, with that being said though, let's jump into the spells that we're gonna be using here. So there's 3 spells that I could recommend for this fight. One is going to be Dragon Eyes, because it has a very long range and she's weak to Frostbite. Not necessary. I wouldn't say that this is super cheesy to use this. It's just good. Another thing you can use is Greyol's Roar, because she can be knocked off her feet with Greyol's Roar if you stand next to her. I think it's a little bit awkward to use this, and also it doesn't seem to work when she's in her waterfowl dance. If this would be able to knock her down from her waterfowl dance, Greyol's Roar would be amazing, but doesn't seem to be able to do that. So it's only when she's doing her weak attacks, which don't do much. They do a little bit of damage, but they're not that dangerous anyways. And you need to be very close for Greyol's Roar to work. But it is a thing you can do, and it's especially hilarious if you have this on your mimic and have this on you, and you just, both of you just chain Greyol's Roar. It's a fun thing to do. If you're bored, you can do that. But here's the thing, which is the best spell that I found against her, and that is going to be Swarm of Flies. First of all, Swarm of Flies deals a little bit of hemorrhage damage. So if you apply a lot of Swarm of Flies, then you can actually get the hemorrhage off, and she has kind of low resistance versus hemorrhage, so it's kind of easy to get the blood loss off. But also it's very fast to cast, and also it staggers her. So if you can get the mimic to tank for a few seconds while you cast, or spam I would say, Swarm of Flies, you can have so many Swarm of Flies down that she's just gonna be doing this. She's gonna be doing that He-Man thing. That He-Man meme is what she's gonna do. So that is the spell we're gonna use. Now let's jump into the fight, and I'll talk you through it. I mean, I've already told you everything we're gonna do. We're gonna summon the mimic, of course the mimic, and then we're gonna drink our flask of Crimson Tears. You can also, if you want to avoid the Crimson Bite here, I'm using Dragon Eyes when she's far away, because the flies thing doesn't have that much range. Using Bloodhound Step to get away. Now she's targeting the Mimic. Perfect. Now you just spam. Spam Swarm of Flies. I can see when you start having like 3 or 4 or 5, you're gonna see this happening. She's can't really do anything. Just keep spamming Swarm of Flies. And as you can see, her absolutely abysmal poise is her downfall, because she's just you're gonna see even more of this in phase 2. I mean, she's already kind of not doing much here. I think I could just have spammed the last Swarm of Flies to finish her off there. This was probably a little bit wasteful. But as you can see, the Mimic is really good at tanking also. So it's not... shouldn't be super difficult with the Mimic. Okay. Go into her second phase, and when she's in her second phase, immediately use Bloodhound Step. Just go away from her as far as possible. And then, okay, use Dragon Eyes while she's in this thing, so you don't get Scarlet Rotten. Go too close there, you're gonna get Scarlet Rotten, so don't do that. And then, when she's close enough, you can swap the Swarm of Flies. And badoosh, 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 badoosh. You can also, you know, Stance Breaker in any other way. If you have any sort of great weapon, I think this fight might be, well, it might be good for both bleed builds, I would say, because he has low resistance versus bleed, and also like great hammer builds. I think she can deal a lot of poison damage. Because as you can see, she's just that's how we defeat her. But now we need to see the up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. See you next time.